And next, I would like to invite Professor Christophe Jaffrelot. Professor Christophe Jaffrelot's book is about Modi's India, Rise of Hindu Nationalism. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation. And thank you for inviting me to share my views on the very topic the Honorable Minister has just dealt with. That is the threat that is posed on Indian democracy. And we have exchanges with Dr. Shashi Tharoor on a regular basis on this. So I will make sure that I do not speak more than 20 minutes, maybe less, for this conversation to enlighten all of us. So as you said, this is a presentation that is drawing from a book that has just been released at Princeton University Press, and that will be published in India by Amazon, on the three sequences that this book is examining: the rise of Hindu nationalism, the rise of national populism, and the rise of authoritarianism. And all this cannot be in a subtitle. So in the subtitle, there is only Hindu nationalism and ethnic democracy, but I will deal more with the authoritarian dimension, because I find it, of course, as the Honorable Minister has just mentioned, the most disturbing development these days. Well, to introduce this, I need to review, but I will do it very briefly, all the symptoms, all the signs of this democratic decline. Well, first of all, you have the decline of checks and balances, which is resulting from successful attempts to weaken many institutions that were in a position to balance government's power before. This decline of checks and balances can be attributed to the way bureaucrats in charge have been appointed in many different places. It can be the Central Bureau of Investigation, it can be the NIA, it can be the CBC, it can be the Reserve Bank of India, it can be the Election Commission. That's one way to weaken institutions, to appoint at the helm friends of the government. But there are other techniques, and sometimes very difficult to decipher. For instance, it's not easy to understand why, as the Supreme Court of India, that was most independent, the most respected Supreme Courts of the world, how can we explain that over now 4 years, since 2017, we've not seen the Supreme Court of India resisting any of the decisions of the government? Since 2017, the Supreme Court of India has not made any decision till very recently against the government. And in some cases, like abolition of Article 370, it has not taken any decision at all. Well, I have no time to explain what I consider as the main reasons for this transformation of the judiciary's attitude. In fact, I have one full chapter in the book on this, but the Pegasus revelations probably can help us to understand the blackmailing at work in this domain. But what matters the most is the result. The result is the judiciary is not opposing the government anymore. And that's, of course, not good for democracy. And if you continue to review the institutions which have been at the receiving end, of course, Parliament comes next. And Shashi is better placed than anybody for testifying of this. Again, a vibrant parliamentary democracy where you had committees, where you had deliberations, has been sidelined. And of course, the farmer laws are somewhat epitomizing, symbolizing this decline, because when bills are not passed the right way, when the Rajya Sabha speaker does not accede to the demand for a division, whereas he is obliged on the paper to do so, then you have a clear example of how parliament has been sidelined. Last but not least, the media. The fourth estate, that's an important balancing power for sure. We've seen the mainstream media badly affected. And for, again, many reasons that I will not list. Of course, like politicians, media outlets have been intimidated by raids. You may remember the CBI raid at the residence of Prannoy Roy, the NDTV co-founder. And you may remember that Fali Nariman had described this unjustified attack on press, on media, in one of the Press Club of India meetings just afterwards. It's only one way to remember how things had changed after 2014. You have many other factors for explaining the loss of independence of the media, including the way the government can put pressure on the owners of media outlets to get rid of committed journalists, for instance. So I don't want to go into too many details because this is your daily life. You know what I mean when I say there is a decline of democracy. Now, when we say that, we need to qualify the brand of authoritarianism that is taking shape. And I would say it's a very specific brand of authoritarianism. Authoritarianism is on the rise everywhere in the world. But these days, in the contemporary situation, you don't see military coups anymore. You don't see authoritarian leaders putting all the opponents behind bars. Of course, you have occasional military coups, Myanmar, Egypt, but most of the time, authoritarianism is promoted by those who have been elected, on some populist discourse. And what is terribly interesting in the case of India, like in the case of Turkey, in the case of Brazil, in the case of Philippines, in the case of, well, the list is very long now, is how populism leads to authoritarianism. And I would emphasize this first point. There are affinities between populism and authoritarianism. The populist claims that he embodies the people. He is the people. He is above all the institutions, including his party. Party men owe their election to the populist leader. So the concentration of power in the hands of the man who has taken the party to victory is such that when he takes over as a prime minister, as a president, there is a natural tendency to rule in a rather arbitrary manner, in a rather personal manner. There are, I would say, inherent authoritarianism in the way populists seize power. But they need elections every 4 years or every 5 years for renewing this legitimacy that comes from the people. So we have a very specific brand of authoritarianism that needs elections, because the legitimacy coming from the people's mandate is the only reason why the populist leader can prevail over the judiciary, what Arun Jaitley called the unelected tyranny, the judiciary, can prevail over the party, over the parliament. He needs elections. So we have a form of what we call electoral authoritarianism. But electoral authoritarianism deprive democracies of their democratic substance because they distort the formation of popular preference. How do they do that? Of course, by affecting the institutions I have listed before, including the Election Commission. And the fate of Mr. Alok Lavasa after 2019 elections is just one symptom of this. But of course, there are other factors of distortion. Money is another one. Elections are not an even playing field anymore because of electoral bonds, because of the huge amount of money that the rulers can spend. In the last elections, parties spent $7.2 billion in the Indian elections. $3.6 billion were spent by BJP only, to something like 55% of the total. Congress could spend only 20% of the total. So we have a political economy behind. And this is the other feature I'd like to highlight. There is in this brand of authoritarianism a crony capitalist dimension. You need money for fighting elections. How do you get the money? You get the money from the cronies. And the cronies will be in a give and take relationship with power. We pay for your expenditures. You give us chunks of the economy. There is an oligopolistic trajectory that is inherent in this political itinerary. And you will see few companies getting a large chunk of not only the existing sectors, but new sectors of the economy. And privatization, of course, is one of the techniques for paying back the cronies who have supported the rulers. When privatization of deep sea ports multiply, Gautam Adani is the #1 beneficiary. When airports are privatized, Gautam Adani is again the #1 beneficiary. So you see a political economy that is patrimonial-like, with the somewhat osmosis between the rulers and the dominant forces in the economy taking the advantage. Third dimension of this, and that's part of the subtitle of my book, we have an ethnicization of citizenship. This is the other idea of India. That means that the majoritarian, the Hindu majority is seen as equivalent to the nation. And therefore, minorities can only be second-class citizens. This is something we saw elsewhere. Israel, and especially under Netanyahu, Israel showed that you can have a democracy, prima facie democratic country, with second-class citizens. Everybody is not equally entitled to rights. This de facto ethnic democracy in India is gradually becoming a de jure ethnic democracy, with the Citizenship Amendment Act and with laws like the anti-jihad law of jihad laws. You see the legal system making what was only de facto de jure more and more. And I end with a fourth and last feature of this regime, that is a kind of privatization of violence. This privatization of violence relies on the major role played by vigilante groups. Of course, they were there before. Vigilante groups are probably as old as RSS, at least as old as Bajrang Dal, and they are there in the street for articulating periodic campaigns. When you look at the recent history, you've had the anti-love jihad campaign as early as 2014, then the Garvapsi campaign, then the cow protection campaign. Interestingly, they succeed in such a mechanical, systematic manner that it's a sign of their coordination. You know, you have dozens of lynching for 2-3 years and no lynching anymore. So you have this clear indication that this is coordinated. The result, of course, is to make the de facto ethnic democracy even more palpable. But what is also important to note is that in parallel to these vigilante groups, the police itself in BJP ruled states or in Delhi can play a role that is very similar, and sometimes in relation to the vigilante groups. You know, the Delhi riots showed the Delhi police and the Hindu vigilante groups working together. That's a very important dimension of this authoritarian regime. So if I recap, and again, this is something we may see in other countries. Erdogan's Turkey is very similar. We have the electoral authoritarianism, we have the patrimonial dimension with this connection to cronies. We have the ethnic democracy, that is majoritarianism, and we have the privatization of violence. Well, these 4 ingredients make these regimes sustainable. And they are sustainable also, and this is my last word, because the rest of the world does not interfere so much. Of course, because of state sovereignty and so on, but also because India, in the case of India, it's very clear, is seen as a country that the West needs vis-a-vis China for balancing China. And therefore, the kind of authoritarianism that India is displaying being so much less than the kind of authoritarianism China is displaying, there is still this conviction, I mean, absolute certitude that India can help vis-a-vis China. And that's one of the reasons why there are so little interferences for the moment from the outside world. And that helps the sustainability of the regime that I was mentioning. I stop here because I really do want to listen to Shashi and to have a good Q&A. I hope we'll have a good Q&A. Thank you.